Joining me now, as promised, is Senator Cory, Democrat of New Jersey, and a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Let's just start with Emil Boie, because there's such an influx of news every day. Sometimes it's hard to digest all of it. But this one, I mean, it seems pretty clear this guy lied under oath at the confirmation hearing you were at. Is there any other way to see it?
I have looked at what this particular whistleblower. I have to say that because we're getting indications that there might be other people who want to come forward
about Boie.
But this particular whistleblower shows to me a real contradiction between what he said under oath before us and what he said in private. And that incongruency should be disqualifying, in my opinion.
It absolutely should be.
But you add to that the fact that he is saying those very words, F, the whole curse, F the court orders. Like, you cannot be somebody in charge of the rule of law if you are saying and have said in a position, screw the judges and screw the judges' orders. That's something we should not tolerate. But it's even worse than that. Go back a number of years before that, he had one of the worst, what we call Brady violations. In other words, as a prosecutor, he had exculpatory evidence that he did not provide the defense counsel. It's one of the worst cases in the Southern District of New York, one of the most extreme Brady violations that they had seen in recent history. You've had people come forward. Again, these are not Democrats. These are line prosecutors. These are former people who have served even in the first Trump administration, coming forward talking about how reckless and dangerous and how much disregard he has for the rule of law. And that should disqualify him, both with Republicans and Democrats.
It should. Let's go back, because the whistleblower claim, it's significant to come forward as a whistleblower. And it means you feel strongly about the risk of the person you're identifying poses. But you said there's others about Boie.
Well, I met with a lawyer representing someone that I think has pretty damning evidence, but there's so much fear, which is part of the Trump Cash Patel. What they want to do is they want to intimidate and threaten people. Look at what they're doing now with Comey. This is all a way to weaponize the law. If you stand up against us, if you speak against us, we will bring the full course of the law. And even if we don't win, we're going to destroy your lives by causing you hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills, reputational damages. We'll send a Twitter horde against you. And by the way, if you do what we want you to do, we'll pardon you from some of the worst crimes, like beating police officers within an inch of their lives.
Is this other whistleblower or whistleblowers? Is it whistleblower or whistleblowers?
I don't want to go too far.
Okay, but is it the same details or,
no.
or different details about things Boie has said?
Yes, I think this is a person who his testimony is in question, and people heard his public testimony, and now are saying, wait a minute, I have again receipts to show that this is not what he said, this is not what he did, really casting a shadow over his testimony. And we're trying to give people, not just even in this case, but this is the Trump administration writ large, we're trying to give people confidence that if they come forward, we will do everything we can to protect them.
That is a hard argument to make right now, given they are strategically trying to dismantle. And I just talked a bit about this, right? There are whistleblower protections in government, but it seems the Trump administration is strategically trying to dismantle them. And I say that so people are aware, not to scare anyone. What do you make of this nomination of Paul Ingrassia, who I just talked about, I know you're familiar with? That is a key role where whistleblowers within government would typically go to that person.
Yes. I mean, Trump is hiring people based not upon their qualifications, not upon their past, wrongs that they've done. He wants loyalty and fierce loyalty. And so we're seeing people come before us that are not just unqualified, but that are dangerous to the protections, not of just our federal employees, but dangerous to the public at large. And when you see who he's had even in his cabinet positions, somebody like the Secretary of Defense, people that were involved in sending out in signal chains war plans. We're seeing people that are making Americans less safe, less secure, and frankly, putting people in a situation where the very things we want those government agencies or those positions to do, they're not going to be doing.
On Boie, I mean, you know your committee very well. You're also not a naive person in any way, shape, or form. This should all be disqualifying. The next step is in a week from today. Do you think there's any chance that the fact that he clearly, I think, lied under oath could pull any Republicans to not vote for him? Do you have any hope of that?
Yeah, I definitely have hope. We saw the ability to stop a few of the most egregious judges during Trump's first administration. Now, the consequences for Republicans that step out of line. I mean, here's a president right now saying if you do not kill Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, if you don't go after the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, I will run a primary against you. So we're seeing now that they are ready to go after their own if they step out of a line, even if it's a justifiable reason, like saying, again, Hegseth is not qualified. But there are a number of Republicans we're going to go to who have said publicly that there are certain things they won't tolerate, like, perjuring yourself potentially before the United States Senate.
For Trump cabinets, right? Or picks for positions that are, made by the cabinet themselves, these cabinet style picks. People got to remember, these used to be routine. And a couple things changed that. One, the GOP going way overboard and attacking decent picks by Democratic presidents like Obama and Biden, but critically, Trump picking absolutely unqualified, if not compromised people for these positions, or people, let's say, that have controversial pasts or presence about them. And what it showcases is that with Trump, there's nothing routine. Like, even with Republican presidents, they've made bad cabinet picks, let's say. But you go down the list of a lot of their appointees for lower level judges, and it's like, look, you don't want to just rubber stamp it, but it's like, sometimes the people are qualified. There are qualified. Not everyone is Judge Cannon, who many argue is unqualified. You remember her, the one who was appointed by Trump and then did Trump's bidding in all those cases, right? Remember that? At least allegedly. But like, it used to be different. But now every single Trump appointee, guys, is seemingly controversial. And the ones that aren't should have been. Everyone approved Rubio. Everyone thought he would be fine. And then he turned out to be a monster too. And it only gets worse here.
President Trump losing on immigration again today. This is even after the Supreme Court recently intervened, trying to help him fend off lower courts that pause his orders when they are deemed through the process likely illegal. But that's back where the administration finds itself again tonight, because the news is a rebuke from a federal judge hammering Trump with another national block of what has been this flailing effort to try to rewrite citizenship. The ruling freezes the White House. There are new details while that's going on that we're getting about that DOJ whistleblower case, which was against Trump's Justice Department and refers as well to the embattled and allegedly at times unlawful immigration agenda of this administration. There are now damning messages coming out that reveal the real-time texts about a top official's directive to defy court orders, being ready to say F you to the judges. All of this bolsters those initial reports, which shook the DOJ and Washington when they first broke.
Emil Boie, a former Trump personal lawyer, now top aide to the Deputy Attorney General, pushed DOJ officials to ignore court orders.
Boie stated that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts F you and ignore any such order. Silence overtook the room.
Erez Ruvani filed a whistleblower complaint against the Department of Justice. He says, I didn't sign up to lie. In response to his termination,
that official, Mr. Boie, once did Trump's criminal defense work. He's up for this judgeship, and he did fend off the same accusations in his testimony. That whistleblower, though, is telling the New York Times today that Bovie's testimony didn't clearly or firmly deny all of this. And now we have the receipts, which show other people at the time heard the same thing, because multiple officials were texting each other how Boie talked up telling the courts F you, which of course means in this term that they wanted to defy the courts, the DOJ, breaking the law rather than upholding it. Another DOJ lawyer writes in a text, I guess we're going to say F you to the court, and the response was a sarcastic super. Then you can see there the two discussing how Pam Bondi, the AG, would ultimately be responsible. The point is that these other lawyers who are inside the Trump administration, who had been deemed loyal enough to be senior enough to handle this immigration case, were aware of this plot, telling judges F you, defying orders. This is a Watergate level of evidence. Texting privately about it then. This was before that lawyer, the now whistleblower, was fired or moved on into this position. So again, from a legal perspective, that makes the evidence more credible. Now, DOJ responds to this. They're denying it today. They're saying no one was ever asked to defy a court order. You'll notice saying that no one was asked to explicitly defy a court order is different than denying that Mr. Boie did tell potentially a bunch of people that they would say F you to the courts, or that that was one of the potential plots. And we're early in this 4-year term. The DOJ is responding because it has to, because ignoring this isn't going to work right now, because facts, evidence, whistleblowers can still matter, because the receipts and the public reporting is putting heat on them for betraying the Justice Department itself at a time when they are tonight losing in the courts. While the same DOJ, on a very different issue, is taking heat from the MAGA conspiracy crowd for hyping and then failing to deliver on what Pam Bondi said in public was a Jeffrey Epstein client list that she claimed was sitting on her desk. Either she was terribly misinformed or she was actively lying, because now she runs the same DOJ that says there's no such list. MAGA leaders are calling for AG Bondi to go. Tucker Carlson and others basically saying she might have to be the first person sacrificed in this second term. That's a major storm on several fronts, plus those court losses for an attorney general early in her term and in the crux of everything Trump's trying to do on these issues. We're joined by two regulars our MSNBC viewers know, Jason Johnson and Melissa Murray. Melissa, your thoughts on these stories, which are pretty intersecting, the court loss today and whistleblower accounts of this immigration agenda?
Well, the court loss isn't surprising. The text of the 14th Amendment is plain, and the Supreme Court, even as it narrowed the eligibility for nationwide injunctions, did say that class actions would be a suitable vehicle. The administration has said that it will challenge the class certification procedures that Judge LaPlante used here. So I think we can expect this to go back to the court. But this all intersects, as you say, with what's happening at DOJ, because, again, we see that the DOJ is very much advancing the project of this administration. The idea of the DOJ as a separate and independent institution, separate from the office of the president, seems to be no more the case. This is very much Donald Trump's DOJ. There isn't independence. And because there is no independence, it's very clear that this administration and the DOJ is going to be advancing the president's agenda. And that means appealing this decision from Judge LaPlante. It means going after Erez Ravuni because he has.
We've seen all these these appointees, and some of them getting exposed, saying that they support a Trump scheme where they only listen to the courts when the courts vote in his favor, and when they don't, they don't just appeal the cases as they can, and maybe come back with a different structure that tries to fit with the ruling. And it's like, no, we're just going to ignore the courts. Imagine if the Democrats tried to put someone in a cabinet type appointment or a Senate type appointment where you got to be approved like a cabinet secretary would. Imagine if a Democratic president, President Biden, Harris, President AOC in the future, God willing, she was like, I'm going to pick someone. And they specifically said, and we have records of it, that they were going to not listen to judges when they make right-wing rulings. This would be a scandal for years. And yet Trump wants to sweep it under the rug.